What's going on, guys? It's Metsuka here. Welcome to the channel. And today we have a Shaman Werewolf build for you guys. This is the Giga Wolf Blood Magic Devour Herald of Ash build. Okay. I have several builds that I have down in the description. This is by far my favorite one. I have been getting asked in my live streams if I could make a video explaining and making the best build, putting the best build out there and explaining why. I have a lot of good builds. I change builds like daily and try different things. This is by far my favorite one, so I will be sharing this with you guys today. Starting off, you can see over here on the left that we're at about a 30,000 effective hit pool, and we're sitting at about 41.2 million DPS with Shred taking the lead here on the DPS section. First and foremost, this build is more of a temple farming build. That's why I have made it. If you're going to be going for like pinnacle bosses or mapping and doing, some maxed out bosses, I would suggest pulling out the charge regulation in the Devour, and you can add in overwhelming presence and cross slash. That will be your better bet for any content with some bosses with heavy um, HP values. Although this build will take down, anything around 10 million and below very easily. You start getting to 20 million more, you probably would want to run cross slash just to get through the boss faster. Okay. And you can see here, as far as our defenses go, we're seeing about 70 armor here with about 3,200 energy shield and about 1,900 life and about 360 life regeneration. And our resistances are capped, and about 236 spirit here. Okay. Now, let's get into the build. So we are a shaman werewolf. We have spec'd into the bonded modifiers. This is amazing, and we will get more into the bonded later. We have then spec'd into Furious Wellspring up here. Getting this is basically for the rage and for the no inherent loss of rage. This is absolutely fantastic. We also generate rage as well. And then we have taken the reactive growth for defenses, and this is quite good. Now, you may be wondering why I would take blood magic. You can see here that I have taken blood magic. This means I have no mana, and all of my skills cost life. However, Furious Wellspring states that increases and reductions to mana regeneration rate apply to regeneration rate. Well, after testing things, this is a fake stat. You still regenerate rage even without mana at all. So you can see that when I pop in Blessing, I regenerate rage, even with no mana and no mana regeneration. Yes, your mana regeneration will make this regenerate faster. Okay, so however, now I am able to take all the mana stuff and convert that to things like damage, survivability, okay, and utility options. So it works very, very good. Moving back into the POB. So let's just get into the skill tree first. Now we have spec'd down here going into the damage. Now these are spell and attack damage nodes. We have anointed on our amulet here. We have the mystical rage node. Okay. That is this node right here. And this states that every rage grants 2% increased spell damage. Okay. Now, this build does require the unique of Crown of Eyes. Now, what Crown of Eyes does is it increases and reductions to spell damage also apply to attacks. Okay. So as you can see here that we are sitting at about 90 rage. right? And every rage grants 2% increased spell damage. Well, that is about 180 spell damage, right? Which is about 180% attack damage. As you can see, this node is giving me a roughly 13.3 million DPS, right? So when we're taking these nodes here, we're getting attack damage and spell damage. So we are able to double dip, and these nodes are giving us 10%, basically giving us 20% attack damage, right? So these are really good nodes for us to keep. On my Oracle, I spec into this for more tankiness. For the Shaman, we're going down this way. Now moving into this is damage, and we get some attributes, and then moving into area of effect and immobilization, and then over here to armor, and 50% of armor also applies to elemental damage. What this means is 15% of armor applies to your elemental damage reduction. Okay, this does not give you elemental damage, it gives you damage reduction, all right? You also get 15% fast start of energy shield recharge and attributes, okay? And then moving up this way, just grabbing all these damage nodes here, swinging over here, grabbing these armor energy shield nodes, and then grabbing these skill speed and crit chance nodes. And then specking up through the middle, we have a time loss sapphire, which is giving increased effective notables in radius, which means any notables like this one here. It states it's 0.62% of max life per second. This typically would say 0.5, but we have the time loss, which is increasing that. Also, any small passes in radius are granting 3% max energy shield. So little nodes like this that we have spec'd, they are each giving us 3% max energy shield. And then the notables are giving us critical damage. So anything like this will have 12% critical damage bonus on each one of them. That is why we have spec'd a lot of things into here, because we're really taking advantage of the time loss sapphire. Okay. Now we have spec'd into blood magic and also berserk. So berserk is a skill that states we lose max life per rage per second, grants 82 increased rage effect. This is a huge DPS multiplier. You can see here that it is a 15 million damage increase to my build. So it is absolutely mandatory to use it, but it drains health like crazy. So we have spec'd into some life regen here. And then moving up this way, grabbing all this crit damage. And then down this way, we have grabbed all this armor energy shield. And we've also grabbed these empowered attacks, deal damage, empowered attacks, gain extra damage, right? Why do empowered attacks? Well, we have a lot of things that are, you see all this blue that's around my lunar assault and these skills here. That means they're ancestrally boosted. So if you look at Pounce, we have Fist of War. Skills, the skills are ancestrally boosted. So that counts as being empowered. So we're getting those buffs. Also, my war cries, they empower attacks, as you can see here. So all of our attacks are constantly being empowered. So it is a big damage multiplier being able to spec into these nodes here. All right. And then moving down this way, the red is for weapon set 1, which would be our main DPS skills, and the green is for weapon set 2. All right. Weapon set 2, the only skills applied to weapon set 2 are going to be the Ferocious Roar, okay, and the Arctic Howl. And these are war cries that provide us with buffs, empowered attacks. So when we have things like These nodes here, they give Warcry speed and inflict 3 critical weakness on enemies. Basically, what this does is it makes it to where you do more critical hit chance to enemies. And then on weapon set 1, just grabbing all this crit chance, and then swinging down here and grabbing the area of effect and the area damage. And you gain increased area of effect if you have stunned an enemy. We have a lot of stun buildup in the build, and we're melee, so we inherently get 50% increased chances to stun enemies. So we do use the 12%. We do gain this effect quite often. We mainly spec into this for the temple farming because we want big AoEs. And then moving this way, we have grabbed this Warcry cooldown and increased damage for each time you've Warcried. So we have a weapon set 2. We have 2 different Warcries. So we're getting these damage multipliers. And then up here, we've got Warcry speed. Warcry debilitates enemies. Basically, what that means, if we go to the configurations here, debilitates states that enemies deal 10% less damage. So they are dealing less damage to us when we Warcry. Moving down this way, we've grabbed all of this rage. Okay. And this way, we have got all this area of effect for attacks and increase area of effect if we have stunned. We've got increased stun buildup and increased area damage. All of our skills are area skills. Every single one of them is an AoE skill. All of our attacks. So they all benefit from area damage. Okay. Then swinging this way, we've grabbed all of this crit chance, crit damage. There is an increase of mana cost, but we don't have mana, so it does not affect us. Okay. And then swinging this way, we grab blood magic. And then we have the From Nothing Diamond, which is allocated to Chaos Inoculation. Swinging over to Chaos Inoculation, we have the crit damage, strength, and physical damage. We have the gain extra damage to shocked and chilled enemies. We are shocking. We are chilling. And we have Thin Ice, which gives us freeze buildup and increased damage against frozen enemies. And then more freeze buildup. And then our hits basically ignore elemental resistances of frozen enemies. And then we have gain extra damages chaos. We've also specced into stun threshold and ailment threshold here. Okay. And then moving up this way, we have grabbed all this area of effect. Area of effect if you've killed recently, and then swinging down here and just grabbing this 52% melee damage with hits at close range. All right, and then we have specced down this way and grabbing this Warcries have a minimum of 10 power, and Warcries have 15 chance to empower 3 additional attacks. Okay, and then swinging this way, grabbing the Overwhelming Strike for crit chance, crit damage, and more stun buildup, and then swinging down this way, grabbing the increased attack damage and more stun buildup. And then right here, we have increased magnitude of elements and duration of elements. Okay. The increased magnitude of elements will affect the amount of damage we do. It will increase the magnitude of shock that we inflict, increasing the damage that we do. Okay. And then over here, we have a Megalomaniac, and this allocates cooked and iron slippers. If you do not have a Megalomaniac, then what I would suggest is grab another time lost jewel like this one and putting it here. And you can use a medium radius. It does not have to be large, and it will be almost as good as this. You do not need a Megalomaniac. They are very hard to come by the right one. It was actually took me quite a while to obtain one of these because most of them are not as good as a time lost jewel. You can get a time lost jewel in here and it will perform very, very well. Okay. Not sure if I have any other options. I don't have any examples, but um, getting one in here will be just fine. You don't need the megalomaniac. Okay. Um, so specking down this way, we grabbed all of this Warcry cooldown and Warcry speed, right? And then we have the Warcries recover 2% of max life and mana when you use a Warcry. And then specking into armor, and armor applies to elemental damage here. And then grabbing all of this rage, this 2, 2, 2, and 8. And then finishing it off with a Heart of the Well Diamond. This is a triple damage with life regen. And then coming over here and grabbing this Warcry speed and 20% increased damage for each different Warcry used. So we are just gaining damage for using our Warcries. This is the same thing that is stated up here. So we are able to double dip and get lots of damage just for using Ferocious Roar and Arctic Howl. Okay. So that is the skill tree. If you don't have a Megalomaniac here, you're probably going to have less points. So you probably won't be able to spec into these empowered nodes. That's perfectly fine. Get a time loss jewel, and you won't and then don't spec into these here. You will do plenty of damage, okay? Now, let's see here. Moving into the skills. So we currently have for Shred, we have Rapid Attacks, Execute 2, Close Combat, Exploit Weakness, Groken's Resolve. Ferocious Roar, we have Tireless, Raging Cry, Echoing Cry, Exposing Cry, Corrupting Cry. Devour, we have Efficiency, Fist of War 3, Charge Perfusion, and Magnified Area. The fifth slot is not in the POB database. So you will put in your fifth slot, you will put Empowered Sparks. And what this does is when we generate a power charge with Devour, we will create, or we will gain, we will empower 3 attacks. And on top of that, we will gain the empowered sparks, which fire lightning projectiles all over the floor. Okay. So basically, what this does is I'll try to show you really quick. See if we can go in here and if there's any enemies left, right? So if we devour a corpse, right, like this, our skills will be empowered, and you can see that there's this lightning on the floor, right? So it's like an AoE effect that works very, very well. Okay. Um, so that is one of the reasons why we have taken that. It's because it does do quite a bit of damage. Moving back into the POB. So now let's move into charge regulation. So charge regulation is a 30 spirit. It is basically given us a buff. So what it does is it gives us 26% more critical hit chance while we have a power charge. It also gives us 20% more defenses while we have an endurance charge, and 25% increased skill speed while we have a frenzy charge. Okay. So now, why would we take this, right? Well, with Devour, right? So with Devour, when we devour something, we gain power charges, and we also gain random charges based on the charge perfusion support. So this states that it has a 30% chance to gain additional charge. It has a 15% chance to grant an additional random charge. So we are guaranteed to get the critical hit chance portion, and we have a random chance at getting the other portions as well. Okay. So as you can see, Didn't get anything here random. However, when we are killing things with our Herald device, um, with Armor Break 3, there is a 20% chance to gain an endurance charge, right? So when we're killing enemies, you will notice that there is endurance charges like all the time being applied because of Herald device. There it is right there, getting those endurance charges, which is raising our defenses, okay? So that is why we have done that. There is other reasons, but we are able to take advantage of our charges through charge profusion. Okay, it's a very sizable buff. If you look here, it's about a 9 million DPS increase. We're also gaining all sorts of defenses. Very, very nice. Okay. So, moving into Berserk. Now, Berserk, we've already touched on this, and it comes with Diala's Desire and Uhtred's Omen. Uhtred's Omen is very expensive, guys. You do not need it. Berserk is amazing. However, if you are going to use Berserk, you will need to be able to sustain it because it will drain your life and it will kill you. So, you will have to figure out ways to maintain your life through life regen, life on kill, life leech. Okay, this is a very strong skill. However, you will need to learn how to sustain your health with it. Okay, moving into Herald of Ash, we've got Vitality 1, we've got Armor Demolisher, Prolonged Duration, Fire Mastery, Magnified Area. Lunar Assault, we've got Batir's Vengeance, Rakiata's Flow, Elemental Armament, Ancestral Call, and Magnified Area. Lunar Blessing, we've got Cooldown, Cold Mastery, Toll Stillness, Elemental Armament, Magnified Area. Arctic Owl, Arctic Owl, we've got Raging Cry, Echoing Cry, Exposing Cry, Blazing Critical, and Tireless. Pounce, Fist of War 3, Freezing Mark, Ice Bite, Cooldown, and Holy Descent. What's really cool about having Devour is it is also a slam skill. So if you want, you can put in things like Holy Descent into Devour, and that will also give you like two options of Consecrated Ground, which will give you more life regeneration. Okay. Moving into Herald of Ice, we've got Magnified Area, Elemental Armament, Uric Smelting, Armor Break, and Armor Explosion. So those are the skills, guys. And in order to obtain this many skills, you will need an unset ring. Okay. So an unset ring, it grants you an additional skill slot. This will be required in order for you to obtain to have that many skills. Okay. So we've gone into the skills. Now let's go into the gear. So starting with the weapon, we have a Magi Talisman. This is granting max rage, and it is a physical damage style. We've got a T2 physical style with crit hit chance and crit damage. Now, in the sockets here, we've got Rune of Agony, which grants chaos damage, but the bonded is giving us 8% additional damage as extra physical damage. And we've got the Rune of the Hunt here, which gives +1 level to all attack skills. And the bonded for this one here gives 8% chance to gain an additional random charge when you gain a charge. So this synergizes very well with charge regulation and devour, right? So we're gaining additional charges all the time. It's really nice. And then here we have life leech with increased max life from the bonded. Okay, guys, you don't need a 4-socket talisman. I am just trying to min max, so we are putting as many sockets as we can on this talisman. But you do not need this many sockets. Okay. Moving into the Crown of Eyes, this is required for the build. I have a 3-socket one. Again, you do not need a 3-socket one. but the more sockets, the better, right? Because we are taking advantage of bonded modifiers and such. Um, in the socket here, we have max rage. In this one, we have skill effect duration, cooldown, and up here we have cost efficiency. Moving into the Grand Regalia, we have a life regen, global defenses, and spirit per socket. And we have 2 Fox Idols, which has given us attributes for the bonded and quality to all skills. This one here just gives reduced effect of curses. The bonded does not apply because we are not doing curses. And this one here is increased recharge, energy shield recharge rate, and the bonded is giving us a faster start. And then a Tekrod's Gaze, so we have more life regeneration. Okay. And then the Head Hunter, this is basically going to give us crazy modifiers that we steal from killing rares. Okay. And then moving into the gloves, we have a double socket armor energy shield pair of gloves, and this will give flat stats in the prefix. We've got +2 to melee skills, increased crit damage, and 60% increased effective socketed items. Now, in the sockets, we have 8% attack speed. The bonded is reduced slowing potency debuffs. And then over here, we've got increased magnitude of non-damaging elements such as shock, chill, freeze, and increased duration. Now, you can see over here on the left that this is 48% and 12%. It is because we are getting 60% increased effect. So that does apply to the bonded as well. Okay. Moving to the boots, we've got a pair of energy shield boots, and we have a Rune of the Chase, which is giving us movement speed, and the bonded is giving us 10% increased cooldown rate. And we have a chaos res here because we needed to cap our chaos res, right? And then moving into the amulet, this is where we have anointed mystical rage, and we have a spirit energy shield and global defenses with +3 to melee, life regen, and critical damage bonus, with defensive modifiers as the catalyst. And that is basically to offset cooked that way because it takes 20% reduced defenses, and this will help offset that by giving more defenses. Moving into the ring, we've got a prismatic ring with flat damage, life, rarity, and a bunch of resistances. And then on this, we've got a bunch of flat damage and resistances. So most of our resistances are here on our rings and our boots. And that way we can use certain uniques and things like that that don't really give resistances. Right? Now, we do have a Rite of the Passage Golden Charm. And what this does is when we kill a rare, we become possessed by Spirit of the Wolf. And what this does is it gives us a chance to maim, and maim reduces movement speed. It also reduces the evasion of enemies. And then it also grants us 30% increased skill speed, 15 increased movement speed. We break armor on hit, and we will periodically summon a spiritual wolf that uses a dash attack. When you see me play, you will see these golden spirit wolves. That is from the Rite of Passage. And then we just have whatever charm we need for whatever map we're running. Okay. I think I was running with stuff that was slowing me and poisoning me on the last run that I was doing. Okay. So that is the build, guys. It is absolutely absurd. I highly suggest it. I've got a bunch of people in my stream that have been trying this build, and they said that it works very well for them as well. It's extremely strong. It is the best werewolf build that I have built. Okay. Now, I got a question. Will this work on the Oracle? I believe it will. I will be testing myself. Okay. here pretty soon. We'll be on stream playing this build on the Oracle. It will be different though because the Oracle has different options, so we will have a different setup for the Oracle. But I believe it will work. Will it work the same? I don't know. We're gonna have to give it a, we're gonna have to play with it and make adjustments as needed. I have been getting a question: is the shaman or the oracle better as a werewolf? Well, I can't really answer that, okay? Because honestly, they both work really good. I think they're both amazing, and which one is better? I can't answer that, okay? But I can say that the shaman is an amazing werewolf, and I can also say that the oracle is an amazing werewolf. Either way you go, you will win. However, I think if you're choosing a build that is high damage, high survivability, this would be probably the option that you want to go with. Okay. Let's see here. Now, people have asked me kind of what is the rotation to the build, right? So basically, what you want to do, we can just grab a map here really quick. Let's see. Let's grab this really quick. So if you were to go into a map, um, the rotation is going to be Ferocious Roar, like this. Ferocious Roar into Arctic Howl. What's nice about Ferocious Roar and Arctic Howl is Ferocious Roar is kind of like the jelly to the peanut butter of the peanut butter jelly sandwich. Like they kind of canceled their animations out, right? So if you do Arctic Howl, you're kind of stuck there for a second. But being able to Ferocious Roar first, it cuts Ferocious Roar's animation, um, and it goes right into Lunar Blessing. And the reason why we do this is because it instantly regenerates your rage. Okay, I'll show you guys. So that way you start off with a high duration of Lunar Blessing. So Ferocious Roar into Lunar Blessing. Our rage is maxed out. We're going to Arctic Howl to provide those buffs. And then we're going to Lunar Assault and use Shred. So the way that Lunar Blessing works is every time you attack, the moonbeams will start coming down, right? So you can just, hit them with a Shred and the moonbeams will come down and it will bomb on them, right? So your bread and butter is going to be using the Lunar Assault, okay? Lunar Assault, you're going to use it everywhere. If you come across like a boss or a hard enemy, you're going to want to pounce, mark them, and then you're going to want to shred the frozen enemy and create ice crystals, right? So this is pretty much standard gameplay here. So Ferocious Roar into Lunar Blessing. That way we have a whole lot, and we're constantly using these war cries to provide us lots of buffs. Okay, you have the Herald of Ice doing massive explosions, and you have the Herald of Ash. Also, like they're also exploding but igniting, so it works really good in the temple. That is basically where like we use it, is in the temple. But if you were to fight a boss, just the rotation would be pretty simple: is Lunar Blessing, Arctic Howl, pounce in, Lunar Assault till they're frozen, and then just slap them with Shred, okay, until they die. So that's pretty much the rotation, guys. In the temple, what you're going to do is you will be using Devour a lot, right? So Devour is like if a corpse is nearby, you will use Devour, and it will empower your attacks and give you power charges. If there is a corpse far away, you can you can you can slam them from far away. So like it's not working. There we go. Boom, like that. So you do have a slam skill. It will do an AoE effect and consume that corpse and empower your attacks with lightning bolts. Okay, so you're gonna want to, you know, devour corpses as you are going along. Okay. Typically in mapping, you won't need to do that very often just because of Lunar Assault, Lunar Blessing, and Herald of Ice. They do so much work that it's usually enough to not even have to use it. But that is how you use um your devour. Okay, guys. I'm gonna leave you guys with a clip of a temple run so you guys can see this build in a fully maxed temple. Anyway, guys, if you decide to build this build, you will not be disappointed. But anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good one. Peace.
What nonsense will the Baal serve up this time?